Hey everyone, we are live and my name is I'm the host of this weekly live streaming show, Classroom Without Walls. And today I am so honored to have Chris Brogan join us live. And we are not going to discuss digital marketing, social media marketing. No, we are going to discuss depression, mental health, and being an entrepreneur and a social media and digital marketer. And before we get started with our Q&A with Chris, I just want to spend a few seconds to introduce our amazing guest. I'm just so excited and so honored to have Chris here. And Chris is the president of Chris Brogan Media, which helps mid-size and big-size companies in terms of giving business advice, things like that. And also, Chris is the owner of Owner Media Group, which is to help small business owners like you and me. And at the same time, and Chris is also a highly sought after keynote speaker. And we actually just connected in person at the Social Media Examiners Conference. Was last month in San Diego. Yes, yes. And Chris is the New York Times best-selling author of 9 books. I can't even write one book, and he is working on another book, which we will briefly discuss approaching the end of our interview today. So, Chris, I am beyond, as you can see, I'm beyond honored to have you here and to join us live and to talk about this important topic, which is so close and dear to my heart because not many people talk about this. So thank you so much for joining us live.
Dr. I, it is such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for making an opportunity for us to talk about something people don't always talk about.
Oh, thank you. I see that we have a bunch of people join us live, and let me know in the comment section and where you are joining us from. I always love the global community that we have, which is why I call this Classroom Without Walls. That's how I am reinventing traditional education. And if you have any question related to depression and mental health, or if you are okay with being vulnerable, if you are dealing with this yourself, what are some of the challenges you have, please write down, share your comments in the question in the comment section below, and let's get started, Chris. And hey, Vicky, thank you for joining us. And hey, Daniel. And as I was getting prepared for this interview and I was developing questions, I kind of know how bad depression was, but I didn't know how bad it is. I was so shocked by some of the numbers that I saw. And actually, I want to share a screen of an article that I saw that compared depression rates among entrepreneurs compared to the general population, which is almost like doubled. Let me see if I can successfully figure this out. And as people are joining us live, make sure you let us know where you are joining us from and which channel. Hey, Brian. And you are watching this from. And I'm just going to share the screen. And so this article is an article published on Medium, the startup. And let me know if you guys can see the screen. And look at this chart. So this chart compares entrepreneurs, that's E, with the general population, the white column, and discuss like depression rate, ADHD, addiction, and bipolar. And you can see the rate for entrepreneurs is a lot higher compared to the white color column, right? Like this one, ADHD, oh my God, 30% versus 5%. And 12% versus 8%, and 11% versus 4%. So my question for you, Chris, is why is this the case? What is so unique about entrepreneurs that make us just so prone to like depression and mental health issues?
Well, I mean, one thing that I want to start with about that is that a lot of people define entrepreneur in different ways. A lot of people don't fully grasp how they want to qualify someone as an entrepreneur. The way I always look at it, entrepreneurs are people who assume a higher level of risk to accomplish a goal or task that will hopefully have a better reward in delivering a business, service, or a product that doesn't exist in the current world in the way that other people are doing it. So we, by nature, people who are entrepreneurial have to try more things than the tried and true, which means more chances to fail. That's one reason. Another is that revenue is never guaranteed. An entrepreneur doesn't have a salary, they earn. And so some months they don't make enough. Some months they make a lot and hope that it stretches for a while. And when I say month, some entrepreneurs go years between big wins. And it becomes really complicated. And with this, there's a study somewhere that I could never seem to find ever again that says that males tie their identity to their job in a very different way than females do, but that male feels like they feel even worse mentally because they feel like they're not in a provider role. Now, even if you strip that away and you strip gender away, I think no one likes to feel like they're not successful, or no one likes to feel like their interest in delivering something is not hitting very well. And there's just a lot more opportunity in the front lines when you run your own company to run a risk and not necessarily be as successful as other people. So I think that's one reason why the higher level depression. I think another thing before we move on, isolation. A lot of entrepreneurship is not in an office place. And so humans need to congregate even if we don't think we want to. And I think that a lot of the isolation that comes with running your own business contributes to this as well.
Wow, I love this. Like 2 points really stand out to me. One is the uncertainty. You know, my journey is a lot shorter compared to yours and probably many people in the live audience. And I have only been on this journey for 2 years. But the uncertainty, especially the first year, and you just don't know where is the next paycheck. Thank God I still have a full-time job, which definitely reduces my anxiety, my stress level substantially. I can now imagine the pressure if you have children and only do this. So that really stands out to me. And another one is the isolation, right? You are probably working at home a lot by yourself, and I'm the same. Yeah. So I really, really love those 2 points. Yeah. And you guys, if you have questions, and I see someone having some problems with Facebook, Vicky, can you see me? You said you can't see me on Facebook. Can you see me on Facebook? If not, you can go to my Facebook page. We're also live on my Facebook page. And so Chris, I really love how open you are to just like talk about this, to openly share and documenting your journey. And if you don't mind, please share your mental health or depression journey with us, and how long you have been battling with this. And was it hard for you to decide to share this? You have a huge community, right? A huge, very active online presence. Share that decision-making journey or struggle with us. Was it hard for you to come out and to share, like, you know, guys, I'm dealing with this, I'm working with this. So share that story with us.
So first, I think that around the time I was diagnosed, I went to see my first professional about this, I think around early 2011, and he said that I have officially qualified what I have as mild clinical depression. And mild clinical depression means that the gap between depressions can be a little longer than other people's, and the intensity of the depression is not necessarily, it doesn't reach the same highs as people who have moderate to severe depression. What it feels like, and I wrote about this in a fairly recent post on LinkedIn, what it feels like is sort of like everything in your day is like walking through mud. It's everything is slower. If your set point in life is 5 and 0 is terrible and the world's over, and 10 is elated and everything is great, your set point as someone dealing with depression is like a 3 or a 2. So that's your baseline. You're never even at the 5. So that's kind of how it feels. I never ever use terms like battle with or suffer from because I'm always telling people, you know, I deal with depression. And the reason for the difference in that language is I want empathy, not sympathy.
Oh,
And
I love that.
that's been hard to kind of engineer. But because I think that people think, the response you're supposed to make when someone says you have depression or anxiety is to say, ah, but it's not. That's like, people who have diabetes or people who wear glasses, no one ever says, oh, you wear glasses, right? So
That's right.
it's just it's something like that. I like to compare depression to diabetes because both require medicine and lifestyle changes, and both are somewhat manageable but can be difficult, and both are something that just happens and you don't control the outcome. Like with diabetes, there's a lot of dietary changes you can make, but your chemicals are making a choice for you whether or not you want to make the choice. My chemicals for depression decide sometimes how my day is going to be, whether or not I can fight my way up a little bit higher than I would be. Deciding to share it was your question. I don't know that there was I don't know that I thought about ramifications or implications. I think I just thought, I share everything else, I might as well talk about this. And I wanted to say, I wanted to put it out there because I wanted people dealing with their own challenges to realize they're not alone, and that it's like improvisational acting. In improv, they say yes and. So yes, I deal with depression, and I am still a functioning entrepreneur who delivers work to clients, and that's why I do what I do.
Amen. 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 I love that answer. And we got so many people. Melissa, so many people. We have a group of people joining on my personal Facebook page, a group of people joining on my public page. If you guys want to interact with each other, go to my public page. I share the link on my personal page. And Ian Anderson Gray is here, so welcome. And I know that in particular, we had a few talks about this, depression and being vulnerable, especially at the social media conference. And so this is such an important topic. And I love how you kind of mentioned, Chris, of just dealing with this, like the way we talk about I'm wearing glasses, but not have that, there's so much stigma associated with this topic. So I really love that. And which the last point you mentioned, which is a perfect transition to my next question. You deal with depression, you talk about mental health, but at the same time, you are highly productive, right? I introduced you earlier. You are the best-selling author of 9 books, and you are working on another book, and you are a keynote speaker. You have businesses. So how has depression or mental health affected you, and how do you deal with that? Still being so productive, right? I mentioned I don't even have one book, and so how did you do that? If there is any particular story you want to share with us, so please.
I have a few different things to share about this. One, I started to smile because I thought of one difference, that when you deal with depression, one thing that changes is you have to realize what is not essential. Like the book Essentialism. Dealing with essential things makes you open up more space to have room to deal with the things that matter the most. So the reason you are having trouble getting a first book done is because you are so concerned with so many details of so many facets of your life. And when you deal with depression, you just kind of say, ugh, none of that. People dealing with depression, getting out of the bed is a checklist item. Oh, I got out of bed today. Taking one shower, it could take 5, 6, 7, 10 days to get the energy to want to go get clean in a bath or a shower. And that, if you're someone who bathes every day and cleanliness is very important, you can see that you would have less time than someone who's miserable. So I say it with a little humor, but when you are dealing with depression, you strip away a lot of the things that don't matter. You don't go to all the social events, etc. Now, the other part of the question, though, how can you stay productive? Dealing with this all is a little bit like dealing with I'll give you 2 analogies at the same time. One is like a tax, like when the government decides that I'm only going to give you 40% of what you did for work, I'm only going to give you 40% reward for it.
Mm.
Depression is like a tax on your effort. So it takes me sometimes a little more work to get my piece finished, but I can. Like it just is slower. It also feels kind of like if you are the younger sibling and your older sibling is pushing down on you while you're trying to run somewhere. You know, that feeling of like you have resistance that's keeping you from being the same speed as anyone else. But when that is all said and done, if you account for that, if you realize that you maybe need more breaks than other people, you maybe need to change your environment a little different than other people, you can still accomplish a lot. You just have to, again, remove the essentials and accept that it's going to take a little longer to get where you're going, but not to give yourself the excuse of it taking too long.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a great point. And I can kind of relate because like I have two young children myself. Before I had children, I feel like I can always have the whole day or maybe the whole month, so much time to work on whatever. But now after I have children, I don't have that much time. I'm actually a little bit more productive than I used to be because I stopped giving myself excuses. I can't. I only have 1 hour before my kids are awake or send them to school and other activities. So I can really kind of relate to that. So yeah, I really like that point. And here's a question from my dear friend, Nikki. And she's asking if you have periods when you are super creative and then nothing at all flows. And when I'm dealing with a depressive episode, I feel like my head is full of concrete. I hear you, Nikki. Yes.
Nikki, I can tell you that the way that I get around that is I'll use a service like Evernote, and I will keep an ideas file very full. So anytime I'm feeling creative, I put a lot in that little ideas jar so that when I'm feeling like I'm dealing with depression, I can go to the idea file, pull one of the ideas I already created out, and then just jam on it. Like I don't have to worry so much if I already have ideas that I can work from. So my big important detail of getting more creativity produced is one, you get a lot more rigorous with your schedule. People say, I don't, a very small argument with Stephen Pressfield about this. And it was because he likes to write a lot about the muse and how the muse will come and bless you. And I said, Stephen, I hate that. I want to fight you about this. And he said, okay, let's fight. And I said, the muse doesn't work. You just have to sit and work. You have to sit in that chair and type. You're not going to be creative if you're not in the chair typing. And he says, Chris, the muse only visits you if you're in the chair typing. And I said, oh, now I get it. So, matter of, for Nikki, have ideas files ready to go so that when you're, when the sun is shining, make hay. And then when it's raining out, just execute as best you can on what you've already been creatively doing before that time. And then you can have all the concrete you want.
I love this. This is such a great idea. I'm going to implement this because for some days, for some hours, I just feel a lot more creative. I have all those content ideas. I just need to write them down on days I don't feel like I can just use this. Oh, I love this. And I also love this question and comment from my dear friend Yin. And we just met in person again in San Diego. And because almost all of my audience join us live and who are going to watch the replay are small business owners, entrepreneurs, and some of them are my students. We work in social media, we work in digital marketing. And so how do you balance that, Chris? Like the fact that it is our job to be online. And we all agree that social media gives us that stress, the anxiety, that feel like imposter. Oh, look at my friends, look at me, what a failure. I deal with that all the time, especially when I was starting out. There was no social validation. And so how do you are so successful, and how do you balance that? So share some tips with us.
So first off, when it comes to what is our responsibility is to produce and publish and comment. Our responsibility is not to use our thumb endlessly on Instagram to build our level of depression. Our existence has to be measured by we're producing, we're publishing, we're commenting and interacting, and then we don't have to be on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. As a professional speaker, one of my jobs, most of my Facebook, most of my Instagram friends are also professional speakers. So if I scroll that little thumb up and see what's going on in their life, I can say to myself, I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there, I'm not there. No one hired me for any of these events, So it can be crazy. So my very important response back is just that I go in, I produce my content. If someone's commented, I comment back. I dip in a little bit, look at some friends, and then I get out. We need to take much more active effort to get away from the tools every now and again, or go do something fun with the tools. I asked a question on Twitter a few hours ago. I said, what song is in anyone's head right now? Well, you know what? The response to that's going to be fine. I'm not going to be triggered. I won't be depressed because I got to hear all kinds of new songs I've never heard today in my life. So it was fun. And I think that we need to do that. And I just, to use social tools to do your business doesn't mean you have to be a very socialized person for too long. If you're in your darkness, or if you're worried about going into your darkness, then it's okay. Skip it for a while. As far as comparing people, it's just never benefited me. Plus, most of my goals aren't those people's goals. I bought my one and only fancy car in 2010 and decided it wasn't all that interesting to me. It was a nice car, but I don't think I need a bunch of them. I will never make a Tai Lopez Lamborghini in my garage full of books video. I'm okay with that. And that's important to remember too, is that maybe your goals aren't the goals of the people that you're looking at. And maybe you got to really kind of think through, where are you headed? Because you can accidentally find yourself in the wrong church, if you stay in listening to the preachings of other people.
Yeah, I love this. And also, I want to really thank everyone in the audience for being so honest, for being so vulnerable. I can see everything, Chris, you mentioned so far is triggering lots of self-disclosure. And Nikki, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. And I think we really need to, she said that she has the least serious form of bipolar. I think we should, as Chris mentioned, shouldn't feel like ashamed or like, oh, why do I have this? And I think we need to really talk about this. And so can you please share some specific, Chris, time management tips with us? I remember either in one of your blog articles or books or videos you did, you mentioned that you only schedule 40% or 50% of your day. So what's the reason behind that? Share that strategy with us.
So if you think about things, think about your computer. If your computer runs at 100%, it will only run at 100% for about 3 minutes, and then it'll shut off and never work again. If you run your car at 100%, you'll maybe get another mile or two, and then it'll break, and it'll cost you thousands to repair. But we as humans, we try to fill every day 100% from beginning to end. And people say, but I'm so busy. And, I've met some of the most wealthy people in the world. Richard Branson, Paulo Coelho, who's one of the most successful authors in the world. The billionaires that I've met are always calm and relaxed and seem to have endless hours to interact. When I went to Palm Springs to spend time with Tony Robbins, he wanted me to be on this disc series of his, The Internet Money Masters, which I don't know why they invited me. I was so weird. No. Every other person was like, you've got to kill people and you've got to get all the money. And I was just like, you should hug people. And it was like a Care Bear being invited to a great white shark party. But Tony was friendly and fun and warm, and I never saw him look at a clock. And I really felt like the only thing in the universe was me, and it was perfect. And so how you get there is you choose. And everyone says to me these things like, I can't schedule my day to 40%. You can do anything. You can choose to do anything. And I say that there's so many things that we're not physically capable of. Turns out I'm not going to be a ballerina or a professional basketball player or a ballerina basketball player, but I do control the hours. And what happens is if things are going horrible, I can say, oh, well, I probably need a few extra hours here, and I can do it sometimes. But if sometimes becomes always, it goes along with this other saying I like to say, if you're eating potato chips every day, that's not cheating on your diet, that's your diet. So you have to kind of set your time up. That's the strategy side of it. The implications of this, I use a physical ladybug timer. It's not here. I was looking as if I was at my real desk. And it's a timer, like a tick, 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 ding. It's a ladybug. And I set it for 20 minutes at a time. And everything I do, I schedule in 20-minute blocks. What I find is that if something is great or terrible, you can kind of do it for 20 minutes, except hold your breath. So why not kind of put little bites of time together? So 40% of your day could be like 3 or so business hours. 3 business hours. Everyone says how amazingly busy they are, but could you find 3 sets of 20 minutes each to equal that hour? Could you find 9 little pieces, 9 little fabric-y pieces to make a quilt of time? Time quilting is something I did in 2005, and I still talk to people about it about once a week, because I don't think, it's not that we don't have enough time, it's that we use our time ridiculously silly, and I just want to help people find a better way to get at that.
Yeah. I just so love this. I love this comment from Lori. She said, like, stop glamorizing like business. I feel like I somehow, especially in the US, because I do travel a lot. In some other countries, people are a lot more relaxed. I feel like in the US, you just feel like the busier you are, the more successful you are. I don't know if that's true or not. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about that. But that's kind of my observation. You just hear, oh, I'm doing so many things, busy all the time, hustling all the time. And I also love how you mentioned, Chris, that you can control your own schedule. Wow. Because I'm the opposite right now. I don't feel I have control of my schedule, which I think gives me lots of anxiety and stress, because I feel like my day is controlled by others, is by my agenda. So I think I'm going to, for people kind of where I am, how can I start to make some radical changes to, I want to be where you are. I just only schedule 40% of my time and have more control of my day-to-day life.
The less time I schedule, the more money I make. The more time I schedule, the less money I make. And it's all related to stress and anxiety and trying to service all of the things that you put into that schedule and maintain all the commitments and obligations. I try to feel as few obligations as possible, and that gives me a lot of time back.
Amen. I love that. That's a great blog article title. That's such a great point. I wonder, you guys, if you have more questions, keep sending the questions. And I wonder if you have situations where you are kind of in a depressive state, but at the same time, you have to show up for a talk, or like to meet a deadline for a client, or for some really urgent issues. So how do you deal with that?
So, the strange part about depression is that it doesn't really work on a schedule of its own. So there are times when, if you can chemically manage your depression, it helps, but sometimes that doesn't even work. And so I've been on stage when I've been going through the middle of a depression, and many times, and I can tell you that sometimes it prompts me to perform even harder. Like it perform like, oh, I know I'm kind of dealing with something, and I better put more energy into my external appearance, because I know inside I feel like I should be in my pajamas in my bed, watching so much dumb YouTube and Netflix that my eyes are going to turn into raisins. But I'm on stage, so I better be really energetic and vibrant and really deliver what I've got to do. And then I'll just make up for that later. And I might even order room service, and it might be ice cream for supper. It'll be okay.
Oh, and be okay with that. Oh, I love this. Are there specific like actions or that you take, or maybe kind of can help you get out of that state like faster, just like bounce yourself back?
So the prolonged experience of depression versus like feeling a moment of depression, when you're kind of in it, besides chemicals and all the lifestyle changes you make, the only thing I can counsel people on is that when you're in that state, you look down into yourself a lot. You spend a lot of me time churning up bad things about yourself. I find that if I go and help other people, that helps. Jacqueline has taught me a lot. If I limit, okay, you're allowed to feel sorry for yourself, but let's just do 20 minutes of it. Ready? Go. And then when the bell goes off, then I have to stop feeling sorry for a minute. It works sometimes, and it really doesn't work other times. When it's kind of in a moment kind of a thing, I have a few things that I do. One is I have a few mantras that I use. So in other cultures, mantra is just a repeatable expression, right? And when Jack was performing music with this really good guy named Garish, he asked a group of people once in my presence, how many of you recite mantras every day? And like 2 people's hands went up. It was a yoga place. And then he said, actually, you all recite mantras every day. It's just you don't think very much about what you're saying. So you might wake up and say, oh, you're a bad person. You're never going to get where you're going. You can't manage your time. You shouldn't even bother with that diet because you always fail at diets. And you say all these awful things to yourself like a mantra.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I choose to make new mantras. So one of them I love to say to myself is, I am warm, I am dry, I am fed, and I am loved. And if I can say yes for real to 3 of those, I'm okay for right now. That one helps. The other one I say to myself a lot is just reset and work on right now. Because depression and or anxiety, someone said it, I don't believe it, but I like it. Someone said depression is anxiety about the past, and anxiety is depression about the future. And so if you can do the now thing for just a moment, it helps. And my only little asterisk in the corner about that is if now is terrible, like someone's beating you, then go somewhere else for a while and then go to now. But more times than not, now helps a lot more than depression, which is why things like meditation work, which is why several billion people study meditation every day.
Yeah. Wow, it's so true. Yeah. Like people are just loving all those, like changing our self-talk is so important. I always have that, especially when you deal with rejection, which as an entrepreneur, right, we have just to be comfortable with rejection, uncertainties, all those things. Yeah. And earlier I have a question, but I forgot when you were mentioning Richard Branson and all those super successful people. I heard on a podcast, but I want to know from you if this is true or not. So many of those like super successful people, when you look at their calendar has nothing, and definitely not as packed as my calendar. Is that the case, or like not many things on their calendar, or
it's a matter of success. So in my last mainstream book, The Freak Shall Inherit the Earth, I said I had a whole chapter for success, and the most important point I made was that the definition of success is what you set it up to be. So my personal definition of success is being able to say no to the things that I don't want to do. Because in my experience, the worst money I ever earn is when I say yes to something I don't want to do. And so I try really hard to never say yes to things I don't want to do. And if you're broke, you say yes. That's my version. So that version, there are no feet in sand on a beach anywhere. I don't have a house, made out of glass. There's bricks in my house. I think I don't think I will be buying an 800-inch TV anytime soon. But my version of success means that I work on the things that matter the very most to me most of the time. And so my calendar reflects that, and it's very thin compared to other people who are struggling and straining and thinking, if only I keep going faster, it'll get better. Faster is not better in most things in life.
Wow, amen to that. Wow, just so many great points. And this makes me feel so honored that you said yes to me, Chris. So thank you. Yeah. That's such a great point. And I think I meant to show someone's comments, but I really love how you mentioned kind of have that freedom to do what you want and with whom you want to do it. And that is truly like a great way to define success. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love what Cassie mentioned, right? Hell yes, otherwise don't do it. Heck yes, otherwise don't do it. So that's definitely a great point. Yeah. And recently I love how like we're just wrapping up here. And I love how recently you are also start to talk about how like companies, leaders, organizations, they can really do something to enhance employee wellness, happiness, productivity. So share with us what can leaders do, like key decision makers in the organization do, or even society in general? What can people do to raise more awareness to this mental health, like productivity? Like what can, especially people in high powerful positions?
The first thing I always want to say is when I talk about companies, I think both internally and externally. And I know that different parts of the organization handle different things. So as marketers, I think a lot about the people over the wall who I'm hoping to make my customer. But internally, as people who are leaders, what I'm trying really hard to work on with companies is to realize that we're tired of the factory settings. People don't want to fit into something. People want to go where they belong. And the way that companies can do this is to acknowledge and encourage some of the individuality of who we are. The reason that I'm calling all this work right now dented is because I don't want it to be just depression or anxiety or stress. I want people who are recovering alcoholics or addicts to deal with this as thinking of themselves as dented. When I say dented, my car has a big dent, but it still works and I can drive anywhere with it. And it works very well, except there's a dent. Well, I think that's us. I think we have dents and scrapes and problems in our life. And I think that if I'm going to be a company leader and if I'm going to work with people on this, there are specific areas where you can work on this. One is companies say they want a lot more creativity, and there are processes which will encourage some of the quieter voices in the workplace to be more creative in a way that will help the company go forward. People want more collaboration. Well, I think that it's so important to help people understand that collaboration comes first from feeling as if we belong and we're somewhere where people can understand us and value us. So inclusivity matters so much. There's so much going on with people with the LGBTQ plus IA, all of that, gender stuff, trans, and all of the things going on in that world, multiple cultures coming together, multiple religions coming together. And we're still sort of operating as if it's 1951. And I really just think that we need to if we're going to digitize forward all of our technology, I think we need to retrofit humans for this digital age. And that's kind of what I'm working on.
Wow. What a great way to transition to a book. Tell us more about this book. When is this book going to come out? And tell us more. Yeah.
It's when out is a great question. It's about 2 years overdue now. So the answer is however many months after I finally turn in a real draft. You and my mom ask a lot, but I don't know. The book is, at least right now, tentatively titled something like Dented, Retrofitting Humans for the Modern Digital Age. And I really just want to help, as all these robots and AI and all this great technology makes a lot of our life better and easier, we're really losing and really didn't have much of a good quality of human interaction in our business. And we weren't really doing much to cultivate ways to help people feel like they belong somewhere. And so the book's intent is to help people who feel like what I explained during this conversation, how they can feel a little bit more confident and valuable so they can come forward at their workplace and really bring their value out to the world who needs it. And on the other side is to help leaders understand the great opportunity they have when they have people dealing with those different challenges, because every one of those challenges brings with it a wealth of knowledge that not everyone has. So I think it's how do we better distribute all of that knowledge that we're acquiring from dealing with our complicated and not perfect lives.
And just you, what like also here a great comment from Vicky. I think so many comments, and some are just talking about how open you share, and they really appreciate you being so honest. And also you mentioned, oh yeah, here Lucille mentioned how honest you are. I think I really appreciate that, because for many people this is a very uncomfortable topic, but you just make it so comfortable and so easy to have a conversation about this. And the best part is everyone in the audience opened up, started to share. And then when that happens, you just realize, okay, actually as humans, we are very similar. Actually, I went to kind of a meditation conference a few months ago. And by the end of the conference, we did a healing exercise, and everybody ended crying. Like this shows deep down, like not even like, but really crying, like tears running over our face. It really shows how vulnerable, like how broken our inside is, but we just hide it, layers of what we are supposed to be. And I just love this. I almost just feel so therapeutic for me to engage in this conversation with you, with everyone in the audience, and reading the comments. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I want to share a couple of things real quick. And one is that anytime someone feels like they're the only one dealing with it, 1 in 5 Americans is experiencing mental illness in any given year right now. There's something like 1 in 20 is experiencing anxiety or stress, but depression, clinical depression, 1 in 5, 20% of any group of people you're with. So you're not alone. Number 2, if you're saying, wow, he's so brave, look what I got for doing this, for sharing this with Dr. I and everybody. What did I get? I got validation. I got a sense of we're all in this together. I got a lot of big thoughts and feelings from the people I was serving. I got no bad response for sharing what I dealt with. So maybe this is an important one, and I want to end with this. If I had one superpower, it would be to take away your thought that you have the power of mind reading. Because a lot of the things we do to ourselves in our head is we think the other person is thinking this about us. And if I could take away your belief that you could read other people's minds, your life would be so much better. So I love you. Stop trying to read other people's minds.
Wow. That is indeed such a great way to end this, because yesterday I just did the same thing. I was reading a message, and I asked my husband, I said, wow, is this person mad at me or something? I felt this person didn't like me, really mad at me. He was like, what? No, not that. What are you even talking about? So really, no, it really shows how we interpreted the same message so radically different. So this is such an amazing conversation. And now share with us, where can people learn more about you, Chris? And if they want to work with you, and what is the best way for them to get a hold of you, and how can they work with you?
Oh, anywhere. Just look for Chris Brogan. I'm there. I'm kind of like Waldo in those books. But if you go to chrisbrogan.com, that's a good start. And I always tell people, if you grab my newsletter and get that for a few weeks, you'll decide whether or not I'm the kind of person you'd ever want to work with. And that's probably the best way to try.
Yeah. Actually, how I discovered how I wanted to book you, I think you wrote send out a message like, yeah, I could talk to people, and then I said, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so definitely I'm going to share the link in our comment section, and please make sure you subscribe to the newsletter and follow Chris and follow him on Twitter. I love his Twitter content, and so thank you. I'm going to share the link here. It's in the comment section. Everyone, you can check and then follow. And so thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's
so good to be with you.
For this emotional but therapeutic and healing journey. And thank you everyone for joining us live. Many of you truly opened up and shared your personal struggles, and that means so much to me. And thank you so much, guys. And and one more comment, and someone I saw talking about, like I just saw this comment from Sabrina talking about depression, talking about meditation. There's one person I really want to recommend is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you know him, Chris, and he is a great, amazing spiritual teacher who really saved my life. When 2 years ago I was really, really depressed, and he really taught me the power to redesign my life in a way that I want and kind of get me out of that state. And so I really love his content. Yeah. So thank you again, Chris, and everyone
My pleasure.
who is here with us live. I will see you guys next Wednesday, the same time, the same location. And thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. My pleasure.